Well, you look at Genesis chapters 1 and 2, and here you have a perfect creation. God sees all that he has made. He says after each day, it was good. And then in verse 31 of Genesis 1, it says, God looked at all that he had made, and behold, it was very good. God made no mistakes. And then you have Genesis 2, and it's a retelling of kind of the same story, but up close and personal with Adam and Eve. All is good. And then in chapter 3, something dramatic happens. And you know what that was? That was the fall. That's where the beautiful world and the beautiful creation of Genesis 1 and 2 lost much of its beauty. Now, the world we live in still has a lot of beauty, doesn't it? And we're told in Romans 1 that God's attributes are manifested in his creation. We can see what God is like partly through looking at his creation, but we have to be careful because we can see the beauty and wonders of God, and we can look at animals, for instance, and see the playfulness of God as we look at an otter that pretty much eats and plays all day, and there are people who do that, and that's not a virtue, but...
I'm one of them, yes.
Yeah, there you go. But you look at an otter and you see the very attribute of playfulness of God. But on the other hand, let's not take it too far, because there's also animals that eat their young, so you don't draw conclusions about God from that. Why? Because the creation is also under a curse. It still has beauty, but it's under a curse, and so then we go from there, and we go to the middle of the story. That's where we live right now. So I write novels as well as a lot of nonfiction. And in those novels, you start out the story. It usually is pretty good the way it starts. Things aren't bad. And then things go terribly wrong in the middle of the story. And then the end of the story is where things are tied together and there's resolution. Well, God is the greatest storyteller there's ever been. The Bible, the unfolding drama of God's redemption, greatest story there's ever been. So jump forward from Genesis 1 and 2, and then 3 where it all went bad, and then that's the rest of the Bible until you get to Revelation 20, where you have the judgment and God making things right in chapter 21, those first several verses, and chapters 21 and 22 of Genesis are like the mirror image of Revelation 21 and 22 are like the mirror image of Genesis 1 and 2. And now you see God is making right. He's restoring the beauty and wonders of his creation. So the rest of the Bible that falls in, that's in between, is under the fall. And you know what? The middle of the story is the hard part with all the evil and suffering. You and I live right now in the middle of the story, but that's not where we're going to live forever. Where we're going to live forever is going to be the end of the story that never ends, Revelation 21 and 22, where it goes on forever. And we all truly will, by the blood of Jesus Christ and the grace of God, we really will live happily ever after if we know him.